Imagine a walk through a dark forest. The path is barely visible, shrouded in an almost tangible darkness. Each step you take is accompanied by the soft crunch of leaves underfoot, and the air is thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional distant sound. The air is heavy with fog, a dense mist that clings to your skin and makes it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. The fog swirls around you, creating ghostly shapes that seem to move and shift in the dim light. It's as if the forest itself is alive, watching your every move. You can hear the rustling of leaves, a soft, almost soothing sound that is quickly overshadowed by the sharp snap of distant branches. The wind picks up, causing the trees to sway and creak, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands. Every sound is amplified in the stillness, making you hyper-aware of your surroundings. An owl hoots, a lonely sound that echoes through the forest. Its call is haunting, a reminder that you are not alone in this dark, foreboding place. The owl's eyes, glowing in the darkness, seem to follow you, adding to the sense of unease that permeates the air. This is where our journey into horror begins. The forest is a perfect metaphor for the unknown, a place where fear and imagination run wild. Just like in a horror video game, the environment sets the stage for the terror that is to come. Video games like this forest can be places of fear. They immerse players in worlds that are designed to unsettle and terrify, using atmosphere, sound, and visuals to create a sense of dread. The dark, foggy paths of a game can evoke the same feelings of fear and anticipation as a real-life forest. They can be unsettling, suspenseful, and terrifying. The best horror games build tension slowly, using subtle cues to keep players on edge. Every creak, every shadow, every unexpected noise can send a shiver down your spine, making you question what is real and what is imagined. From the early days of gaming, horror has been a driving force. Games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill set the standard for what a horror game could be, combining storytelling, atmosphere, and gameplay to create unforgettable experiences. These early games laid the groundwork for the genre, influencing countless titles that followed. It has captivated players and pushed the boundaries of the medium. Horror games challenge players to confront their fears, often putting them in situations where they must make quick decisions under pressure. The emotional and psychological impact of these games can be profound, leaving a lasting impression long after the game is over. This essay will explore the evolution of horror in video games. We will look at how the genre has changed over the years, from the pixelated scares of early games to the hyper-realistic graphics and immersive experiences of today. We will examine the key moments and milestones that have shaped horror gaming and consider what the future might hold. We will look at its impact on players and the future of this chilling genre. Horror games have the power to evoke strong emotions, from fear and anxiety to excitement and exhilaration. They can be a form of escapism, allowing players to explore their darkest fears in a safe and controlled environment. But they can also be a way to confront and overcome those fears, providing a sense of catharsis and empowerment. Get ready to delve into the darkest corners of the gaming world. We will take you on a journey through the most iconic and influential horror games, exploring the themes, mechanics, and innovations that have defined the genre. From haunted houses and abandoned asylums to alien planets and post-apocalyptic wastelands, we will uncover the secrets of what makes a great horror game. Prepare to face your fears and explore the evolution of digital nightmares. We will examine how horror games have evolved to keep up with changing technology and player expectations, and how they continue to push the boundaries of what is possible in interactive storytelling. Whether you are a seasoned horror fan or a newcomer to the genre, there is something here for everyone. This is a journey into the heart of horror in video games. We will explore the psychological and emotional impact of these games and how they tap into our deepest fears and anxieties. We will also look at the cultural and social significance of horror games and how they reflect and influence our understanding of fear and the unknown. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and get ready to enter the world of horror gaming. The roots of horror gaming run deep, tracing back to the early days of video game history. These pioneering games laid the foundation for the immersive and terrifying experiences we enjoy today. Early games, limited by the technology of their time, relied heavily on atmosphere and suggestion to frighten players. The graphics were simple, often pixelated, and the sound design was rudimentary, yet these elements combined to create a sense of dread and suspense that was palpable. One such game was Haunted House, released in 1982 for the Atari 2600. Despite its basic visuals, the game managed to evoke a chilling atmosphere. Players navigated a dark haunted mansion with only a pair of eyes visible on the screen, representing their character. With its simple graphics and eerie sound design, Haunted House created a surprisingly effective horror experience. The limited visibility and the constant threat of unseen dangers kept players on edge, proving that sometimes less is more when it comes to horror. Another pioneer in the genre was Alone in the Dark, released in 1992. This game was groundbreaking for its time, introducing three-dimensional environments and a storyline inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft. Alone in the Dark's three-dimensional graphics allowed for a more immersive experience, as players explored a haunted mansion filled with dark secrets and terrifying creatures. The game's Lovecraftian storyline added an extra layer of psychological horror, drawing players into a world of madness and fear. Players navigated the mansion, battling monsters and solving puzzles to uncover the truth behind the haunting. The game's innovative use of fixed camera angles and pre-rendered backgrounds created a sense of claustrophobia and tension, making every corner a potential threat. While the graphics and controls may seem clunky by today's standards, Alone in the Dark laid the groundwork for the survival horror genre. Its influence can be seen in many modern horror games, which continue to build on the foundations it established. These early games proved that horror could translate effectively to the interactive medium. They demonstrated that video games could evoke fear and tension in ways that other forms of media could not, by placing players directly in the midst of the horror. The success of these early titles set the stage for a new wave of horror games that would redefine the genre. As technology advanced, so too did the ability of game developers to create more detailed and immersive horror experiences. From the pixelated graphics of the early 80s to the photorealistic visuals of today, horror gaming has come a long way, but it all started with these pioneering titles. In 1996, Capcom unleashed Resident Evil upon the world. This groundbreaking game revolutionized the horror genre. It introduced the concept of survival horror, where players faced limited resources and relentless enemies. Resident Evil placed players in a zombie-infested mansion. They had to fight for survival while unraveling a chilling conspiracy. The game's fixed camera angles, atmospheric environments, and jump scares became hallmarks of the genre. The success of Resident Evil spawned a massive franchise and inspired countless imitators. It solidified survival horror as a dominant force in gaming and pushed the boundaries of interactive fear. While some games rely on jump scares and gore, others take a more psychological approach. Silent Hill, released in 1999 for example, masterfully used atmosphere and psychological symbolism to create a deeply unsettling experience. Set in a fog-shrouded town, Silent Hill followed the protagonist's search for his missing daughter. The game featured disturbing imagery, psychological themes, and a haunting soundtrack. It explored themes of guilt, trauma, and the darkness within. Silent Hill proved that true horror went beyond jump scares. It demonstrated the power of atmosphere, symbolism, and psychological depth in creating a truly terrifying experience. What truly sets horror games apart is interactivity. Unlike passive mediums like film, games make the player an active participant in the horror. This creates a unique and powerful form of fear. When you're controlling the character, every creaking door and rustling sound becomes more intense. You are directly responsible for the character's actions and survival. This heightens the sense of vulnerability and dread. Recent years have seen a significant rise in narrative-driven horror games, captivating players with their immersive storytelling and intense atmospheres. These games often feature branching storylines and impactful choices that shape the course of the narrative, making each playthrough unique and personal. One of the most notable examples of this genre is Until Dawn, released in 2015. This game set a new standard for narrative horror. Until Dawn is a cinematic horror game that puts players in control of a group of teenagers trapped in a remote cabin. The setting itself is a classic horror trope, but the game elevates it with its interactive storytelling. Every decision made by the player had significant consequences, leading to different outcomes and even character deaths. This mechanic ensures that players are constantly on edge, knowing that their choices matter. The decision-making element adds a new layer of tension to horror games. It's not just about surviving the immediate threats, but also about making choices that could have long-term repercussions. This forces players to think carefully about their actions and live with the consequences, blurring the line between entertainment and agonizing moral dilemmas. The weight of each decision can be felt, making the experience deeply personal and emotionally charged. Other games have followed in Until Dawn's footsteps, incorporating complex decision-making into their narratives. Titles like the Dark Pictures anthology, Telltale's The Walking Dead, and Detroit: Become Human have all explored this dynamic, each bringing their unique twist to the genre. These games challenge players to navigate moral quandaries and face the consequences of their actions, often leading to multiple endings and varied story paths. This replayability factor keeps players coming back, eager to explore different outcomes and uncover new facets of the story. The emotional engagement in these games is profound. Players find themselves deeply invested in the characters and their fates, experiencing a roller coaster of emotions as they make their way through the story. The social aspect of these games also cannot be overlooked. Many players enjoy sharing the experience with friends, discussing choices, and debating the best course of action. This communal aspect adds another layer of enjoyment and engagement. The rise of narrative horror games with decision-making elements has undoubtedly transformed the genre. By placing the power of choice in the hands of the player, these games offer a more immersive and emotionally resonant experience. As the genre continues to evolve, we can expect even more innovative